It's a no-hitter. Shota Imanaga, Nate Pearson, and Porter Hodge combined to no-hit the Pirates as the Cubs rout the Bucs 12-0 to complete their stretch against teams below 500. What does this mean for the team? Did the Cubs make a mistake pulling Shota Imanaga too early? Did he deserve a chance at history? We're going to talk about that and more on this edition of the Cubs Baseball Channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Get in that comment section. Let us know if you thought Imanaga had what it takes to get through all 9, or if you agree with Craig Counsell's decision to pull him with 95 pitches. But for now, here's your invitation to our show. What do you say, everybody? A special no-hitter version of the Cubs Baseball Channel. My name's Anthony Pasquale. He is Mick Gillespie. Once again, we've traded places. I'm in the Tennessee Smokies broadcast booth here in Pearl, Mississippi. Mick is back in his studio, and you got to watch a Cubs no-hitter, Mick. You're on Twitter at Broadcaster Mick. I'm at Ant_Pasquale3. Mick, a no-hitter. How about it?
I mean, it's mixed emotions. I mean, on one hand, it's really cool to see the Cubs throw their second combined no-hitter in franchise history and the first at Wrigley Field since 72. But then at the same time, it's like, where's this game gone where, like a guy's throwing a no-hitter and you pull him out after 95 pitches in the 7th inning? I mean, isn't it, kind of the point of the gamesmanship to let the guy sit out there and see if he can make history and pitch a no-hitter solo? I mean, I just kind of felt like on one hand I was excited and on the other hand I was disappointed.
Yeah, there's a lot of different pieces to it. We'll get to all of them, but, it reminds me of earlier this season when Ben Brown was through 7 innings, no hit ball. They pulled him out, and immediately the Cubs blew the no-hitter. Now, obviously, you say, man, we wish Ben Brown would have stayed in the game and the Cubs could have gotten a no-hitter. But today, Nate Pearson and Porter Hodge were able to finish the job, which was a little bit different, not what we saw earlier this season. So Imanaga still gets credit for being a part of the no-hitter. No, he didn't finish off the last 2 innings, but what a start from the Cubs rookie.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and I haven't considered him a rookie all year, although technically he certainly is a rookie. I mean, it's his first year in Major League Baseball, but he's been one of the best pitchers in Japan for a long time, and the Cubs have found someone really good. They're out right now scouting another potential ace in Japan, and maybe that's where you go out and you can find some guys, but it's not a secret. All of Major League Baseball kind of keeping an eye. Shota Imanaga has been fantastic this year. I mean, he's been everything and more than you could have expected. And today was one of his, crown gems. I mean, like the guy just went out there and threw no-hit baseball, and who knows if the Pirates were going to get a hit off of him if he'd done it by himself. It would have been a lot more of a big deal had it been all Shota instead of a couple bullpen guys. But at the same time, when you look at Shota Imanaga and what he's brought to the table, it's been just fantastic for the franchise.
Yeah, he was pulled in the ballgame with 95 pitches through 7 innings. Now, I think if he was at 85 through 7, they put him out there for the 8th. I think if he finishes the 8th inning at 95, they put him out there for the 9th. But the fact that you needed him to cover 2 innings makes it a little bit, dicey for the guys that don't want him to go over 100. But who's to say he couldn't have gotten 3 pitches on 3 outs in the bottom of the 8th inning and then throw him right back out there for the 9th? There's a lot of moving pieces and questions that people will have. I think Craig Counsell manages pretty by the analytics book, and I think we knew he was coming out. Whether or not we agree with that is a totally different story.
Well, I'm just not buying into 100 pitches, your arm blows off. And I've said that on here many times throughout the season. And I get it. Like there's, but this is, we're in September, so I mean, you're stretched out. You can throw 120 pitches. It's not, your arm's not going to blow out. I mean, guys used to throw 200 pitches. If you're throwing everything max velocity and trying to hit 100 miles an hour on every pitch, it's one thing. But if you're, just basically going out there and doing what you do, and and just trying to make pitches and locate. I think throwing over 95 pitches, throwing over 100 pitches, 105, 110, 115, 20 pitches, it's not going to kill you one time in your career when you're trying to do something that will immortalize you. I mean, the Cubs haven't had a no-hitter at Wrigley since 72, and then they have one, but it's, of a starter and 2 relievers. It's just been such a bigger deal for Imanaga. I mean, if he would have thrown this no-hitter by himself, it puts him right back in the National League Rookie of the Year picture. Cubs aren't going to make the playoffs. It could have been the crowning accomplishment of this team or one of them for the season. And instead it's, when they throw these combined no-hitters, it's like, hey, we threw a no-hitter, but it's not the same. It just isn't the same deal. It's not the same excitement as what you see when a guy throws one by himself.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit because for an organization and for the fans at the ballpark, they still got to see a no-hitter, and that's pretty damn cool. So I do think that there is still an accomplishment in throwing the no-hitter, and it's kind of cool that Nate Pearson and Porter Hodge get to say that they were a part of a no-hitter now. But going back to what you said for Imanaga, his final line, 7 innings, no hits, no runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. He got his 12th win of the season. The Cubs also made 3 errors. If they make some of those plays, then all of a sudden you're at, 88 pitches or 86 pitches or whatever the case might be, finishing up the 7th inning. But what an outing from him. What a season that he's been able to put together. I always think it's funny that on a start-by-start basis, we worry about how many pitches. But at the end of the year, we're worried like, oh, I hope he doesn't throw too many innings. But what about how taxing those pitches are? What about if you get some easy 1, 2, 3 innings? You could have a 200-inning player that threw a lot of easy innings and a 160-inning player that threw more pitches because he's less efficient. So I think they need to do a better job of thinking about what really hurts the arm. Listen, 95 pitches for Paul Skeens is way harder on the arm than 95 pitches for Shota Imanaga. That's just the fact of the matter, right?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I just don't think that your arm blows off after you throw 100 pitches, so you get to 100 and you just bow out. I mean, Ben Brown didn't throw 100 pitches and he still got hurt, so what, should he have only thrown 80 pitches, 70 pitches, 60 pitches, 50 pitches? Should he come out after 50 pitches and then be like, okay, well, he was going to throw a no-hitter, but we kind of had the feeling that was going to happen, so we're going to pull him out after 50 pitches just because he might get to 100 pitches. All of this stuff is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And it's why baseball is trying to figure out a way to regulate starters throwing 6 innings again. It's why they're trying to figure out how to keep the shifts out of the game. It's why they're trying to figure out how to make the game better again. There was a time when I was watching baseball as a kid, which made me grow up loving the game, when there's no damn way you pull a starter out with 95 pitches throwing a no-hitter. You let the guy go out there and see if he can do it. At the end of the day, it's a game. Can you imagine if you're throwing your best cornhole game ever and you're like, well, you know what? I threw too many pitches. I better let somebody else come in and finish the cornhole game. It's a game. At the end of the day, it is a game. It's just like checkers. It's just like cornhole. It's just like football, basketball. We have gotten so far away from the entertainment aspect of what makes a game fun to watch with baseball because of the analytics, that you get to the point where you're having one of the most phenomenal games in the history of the franchise, and you decide that you're just going to pull the guy out because he might get hurt next time. He might get hurt leaving the ballpark today. I saw where a guy was warming up before a football game on Saturday and injured their rotator cuff in the pregame. Anything can happen in sports. But at the end of the day, what you're supposed to do is go out and entertain the audience. This team ain't making the playoffs. If he got hurt, hey, guess what? It doesn't matter. He just sit him the rest of the season with his real no-hitter, and then we'll see him next year.
Yeah, could you imagine how
serious? Man, I totally disagree with. Oh, I was at the game and I saw 3 guys throw a no-hitter because we pulled the starter after 7. Yeah, it's great. It's like, oh, that's wonderful. No, if Shota Imanaga had thrown a no-hitter tonight, it would be the biggest story of the season for the Cubs. But this team always finds a way to F up the great moments. They've done it again.
like I was thinking about it, what you just said. Can you imagine, like in the fourth quarter, Pat Mahomes is out there. He's been throwing a lot, 400 yards in the game, and they're trying to have a game-winning drive. And here comes Andy Reid. No, Pat, you threw too many balls today. You got to sit on the bench and watch Chad Haney come out there and try to throw the final few passes. Like, that's not how any other sport works.
No.
You want your best player who's playing their best to be out there at the business end of the game. But unfortunately, the Cubs pull Shota Imanaga. I honestly do think that a big fact of it is the fact that they were up by 12 runs at the time. The offense exploded yesterday. I think that's why Nate Pearson was the first guy up, because obviously you're trying to get the no-hitter, but you're still trying to win the ball game and keep your bullpen arms that you'd rather have out there fresh for a close game that might be approaching. Cubs are off tomorrow. But the offense was excellent. 12 runs. They scored on 17 hits, a really strong offensive performance. Ian Happ, 2 hits and 2 knocked in out of the leadoff spot. Cody Bellinger, 2 hits, had a 2-run homer as well. Nico Hoerner had 3 hits. And the 2 biggest performers from the game yesterday, Crow-Armstrong, 3 for 4 with 3 knocked in, had a homer himself. And Dansby Swanson, 3 for 5 with 3 knocked in, also had a homer himself. A really strong offensive performance. The Cubs offense, aside from that 5-0 game yesterday, has been excellent on this stretch.
Look, we got attacked. I did anyway in the comments section like a couple weeks ago because I talked too good about Pete Crow-Armstrong. And I almost feel like somebody sent that to him, because ever since that comment I read, and it was like, well, you talk about Pete Crow-Armstrong, he's batting 200, this guy, da-da-da. And I'm like, well, I mean, if he's batting 200 next year, he's probably going to be on the bench. Ever since then, he's played like, really, he's looked like Ricky Henderson. He's got all these hits. He's stealing all these bases. He's making great plays in the outfield. It's like the light bulb, which was coming on, is dead on. And this guy's kind of figured it out. And it's been exciting watching it.
Absolutely. He had 3 hits yesterday, one of them being a home run, his 8th of the season in the 3rd inning after Domingo Germán. His season OPS now is better than Nico Hoerner's, which could be a testament to how good Pete's been. Also, some of Hoerner's struggles, but he is no longer this automatic out that you stash at the bottom of your order and keep in there for defense. He's turning into a bona fide star right in front of our eyes, and you called him Hollywood Pete. There's plenty of stars in Hollywood, and Pete's definitely going to be a star for the Cubs. Got to give you some credit. I think a lot of people, especially in our comments section, and don't go in there and say you didn't do it, because we can find it, gave up on Pete earlier this season. But Mick Gillespie did.
It's honestly, it's a few things. It's his great defense, it's his speed, but it's also his hand to his wrist, his hand to ball swing. It's just really good. And I figured that eventually that would translate. But I got to say this, the minor leagues are so watered down right now. And I've heard other baseball people tell me that. And we're seeing the transition from AAA to the big leagues. It's just becoming, it's such a high bar that these guys it's just taking a lot of time to figure it out. And I think that, like we talked about yesterday, like wasting at bats and wasting game experience with not playing some of these guys in the minor leagues that you expect to be part of the team in the future is, just puzzling to me, because it just takes time. You're not going to throw these guys in and them have success. They're going to get beat up. They're going to get their confidence just smashed, and then they're going to have to get off the ground and figure it out. And it used to really not be that way. And it's not like that for everyone, but it seems like that for the overwhelming majority. But I just feel like, and I should say, well, it's always kind of been that way, but it's just a lot more now, because they've turned the minor leagues into like rec league. It's like, well, we don't care if we win, and we don't really care about this and that. We're just going to show up, and you're going to get your at-bats, and the games don't count. And then all of a sudden you get thrown into the big leagues, and it's like, hey, every pitch and every at-bat matters. Every game and every at-bat matters, and and all that stuff. So I don't think every organization is like that, but I think the majority of them are. And it's a very tough transition to go from being a star in AAA to being a big leaguer.
Absolutely. But Pete Crow-Armstrong has been patient, and he's made his adjustments, and now he certainly looks like that star. We talked about this a few weeks ago, Cubs were set to have 18 straight games against teams below 500. Well, they finished that stretch with a 13-5 record, winning series against the Blue Jays, the Tigers, and the Marlins, and then sweeping the Pirates and the Nationals. The only blemish on this is, of course, losing this final series against Pittsburgh, but it ends on a high note with a 12-0 win and a no-hitter.
Yeah, and the sad part is that, they went from their big 7% chance to make the playoffs down to like 3 with 2 losses, and they're eliminated from the playoffs. But, it just shows
not mathematically, but it just doesn't look good.
Yeah, like they're not going to make it. I mean, they may have like a
I hope in 2 weeks we can
chance, but they're not going to make it. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And that's the sad part. But even had they swept the Pirates, they still would have had a really tough chance.
It's uphill.
And part of that is just that the Braves and the Mets are really good. The Diamondbacks are a sneaky World Series champion type team. The Padres are right there as well. They're in your wild card. I mean, so they're way behind the Brewers. So I mean, it's just the way it is this year. But it would have been nice to sweep this series, or at least win that first game where they had the lead. Obviously Lopez went on the IL. He was trying to work through some injuries. It didn't work out for the Cubs. And but at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is. They lost this thing long before this stretch.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you mentioned it, Jorge Lopez and Justin Steele to the injured list. Steele with elbow tendonitis and Lopez with that same groin injury that has been bothering him for a little over a week. Unfortunate for these two guys, but, you want to get these guys healthy moving forward. I think Jack Neely was called up and Trey Wingardin. They both joined the big league roster. The Cubs are off tomorrow, and then they take on the Yankees at home for Anthony Rizzo's return. We'll be back on here tomorrow to talk about Rizzo and everything that he's meant to this Cubs team. Let us know in the comments section if you want us to rank our favorite Rizzo moments like we did with Javier Baez. And I'm sure he's due for a huge ovation on Friday when the Cubs get back in action against the Yankees. Then they play the Dodgers, and then another light stretch, 12 games against the Rockies, A's, and Nationals. We'll see if they're able to do anything with that. But for now, guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Cubs Baseball channel, talking about a no-hitter. Let us know if you guys think Mick is right. If you think a no-hitter with 7 innings from your starter and 2 from a reliever are not that cool. Let us know if you're at the game and you thought, you know what? This was still awesome. I got to see a no-hitter. Or if you wished you would have seen Shota complete the job. But thank you guys always for listening and liking and subscribing, following along on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. But for now, thank you guys for joining us. Go Cubbies.